Welcome to the February 19th council meeting, and I'd like to ask Councilman Lucio to lead us in the flag salute.
Everybody please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was a surprise, huh? Caught you off guard. We have an exciting introduction this evening. I'd like to call up Chief Comstock, who's going to introduce our newest member to the Chino Police Department. Karen?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to wait patiently while Officer Brand and our new police service dog, Canine Bolo, makes their way up front. Yes, Bolo, just like be on the lookout. So Officer Brand and his partner, they've been a team now for several months. He just finished the canine certification program. As you can see, Bolo is quite eager to work tonight. Yes. All right. Yes, very excited. Has one of the things we look for in police service dogs is actually a high play drive that certainly contributes to their discipline and their training. But Officer Brand joined our department in 2015. He came to us via the way of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office as a lateral, and he was recently selected to handle Canine Bolo. Canine Bolo is a 3-year-old Dutch Shepherd and Malinois mix from Holland. She was born on November 21st, 2015. They completed their basic handler development course at Adler Horse International in Riverside, California in December. And Angel has spent the past several weeks training with the other members of our canine team. We are allocated 4 police service dogs at the Chino Police Department. We presently have 3 in service. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Officer Brand and our newest member of the department, Canine Bolo. And Mayor, I know there was a lot of activity in your neighborhood. You got to meet Officer Brand and Canine Bolo firsthand, up off of Vernon. So they were doing some good work up in your neighborhood just yesterday, as a matter of fact, where we were able to apprehend 3 burglary suspects who were committing a burglary at a house in the 1500 block of Vernon. It was actually Officer Brand and his partner that responded to that call and conducted a search of that home. So I know you got to see them in action. Had a front row seat to all of it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. Crime is everywhere, and it was just 4 doors north of where I live. But she's anxious, so I would tell anybody who is even thinking about committing a crime in Chino, this dog is going to find you. It doesn't matter where you are or where you hide. As you can tell, she's very, very energetic, very thorough. We're really excited to have her as part of our PD. Thank you, Officer Brown, for bringing her. Thank you, Bolo. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, Bolo's, you may be thinking of Canine Apollo. Canine Apollo is our female police service dog. Canine Bolo is actually a male Malinois, but that's okay. Yeah, not gender specific when it comes to dogs. Thanks, Mayor. Angel, want to say anything about your dog?
Hello, everyone. How you guys doing today? Just want to say thank you to the city and also to the Chino Police Department for giving me this opportunity. It's one in a lifetime position as far as being a canine handler. So looking forward to it. I have a lot to learn, both Bolo and I. But yeah, looking forward to everything, and thank you again.
And Mayor, members of the council, just want to thank you for your ongoing support of our department and this program. Thank you very much.
There. It's always exciting to have a new police dog on our force. They do such a fantastic job. Okay, city manager, are there any changes, additions, or reordering on the agenda?
I have no changes, Mayor.
Okay. Within our packet this evening is the Economic Development Update for January 2019. If you have an opportunity, be sure to access our website and read that. It's very, very good for our community. Okay, this is the time and the place for the general public to address the council on items that are not listed elsewhere. We can't take action on an item that's not listed. However, we do want to hear your concerns and issues. Our first request to speak this evening is our own Mr. Rob Burns, who desires to lead us in a prayer this evening. If you'd like to join us in invocation, please stand.
All right, please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we come before you tonight and we just lift up this meeting to you. Lord, we thank you for the rain that we've recently had and the beautiful green hills that produces, the newness of life that comes from that, and we just thank you for that. We pray that all decisions that are made tonight, Lord, would benefit the community. They wouldn't be to benefit ourselves, but they would be to benefit the larger community as a whole. Lord, we also pray for the safety of our fire and our police officers as they're out there doing their job. Pray that you'd protect them, watch over them, and keep them safe. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rob. I've actually taken an item out of order. Under public announcements, first I want to give everyone a reminder that this Saturday our Public Works Department will be holding a household hazardous waste drop-off from 8 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. at the Public Works Service Center located at 5050 Schaefer Avenue. This will give all of our residents the opportunity to conveniently and safely dispose of materials that include electronic waste, outdated medications, paint thinners, auto batteries, and chemical cleaners. For more information, please call 909-334-3472. Also, I want to give one last reminder that on Saturday, March 2nd, the Chino Youth Museum will be holding its 9th annual Derriere 5K, 10K fun run at Ayala Park, which is located on the corner of Central and Edison. As always, this event will be inclusive of all ages and abilities, with the kids' quarter-mile run for ages 8 and under starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and 5K and 10K starting at 8:15. All those who register before this Sunday, February 24th, will receive a $5 discount on the race they would like to participate in. If you would like to register online, please visit www.active.com/Chino-CA. For questions or in-person registration, please call the Chino Youth Museum at 909-334-3270. Okay, now under public communications, we have several written requests to speak this evening. Our first is Chris Foster and Ricky Bowie, sorry, about the Chino Rotary Dinner and Auction.
Good evening. As was mentioned, my name is Chris Foster. I'm the current president of the Chino Rotary Club here in Chino, 2018 to 2019. Rick Bowie is the incoming president for next year, so he'll start his presidency July 1 of this year until June of next year. But we're here tonight because we have an annual dinner and auction that we do every year. This one is coming up on Friday, March 15th, 2019, which is next month. We'd like to invite you guys, if you are able to join us for that dinner and auction. So we do have 8 tickets available that we'd like to give to the council and to the mayor as well if you're able to come. Please let us know ahead of time so we can make sure we have enough seats available and things like that to accommodate you guys if you're able to join us. We do have a special guest that's going to be joining us at the dinner and auction, and Rick is going to kind of talk a little bit about who's going to be joining us for the dinner and auction.
Yes, so the special guest is jazz musician, Hall of Famer Jim DiGiulio. He decided to come and, out of the goodness of his heart, play for us during the dinner and auction. And I want to remind you that all funds from the dinner and auction goes back to the community and help those in the area that needs it. Thank you.
Do you have a number that people can call if they're interested in attending?
Yes, it's on the tickets, and we have flyers, and it's also on chinorotary.org. Email address on there and phone number on there as well.
Okay, if you want to give the phone number right now, you're
phone
on
number
TV and
is-
it'll rerun.
Phone number is 714-305-2400.
And where's it going to be located this year?
At the Chino Hills Country Club, Los Ranos.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Dr. Roberto Casas.
Thank you, Mayor Ulloa, council members and staff. I appreciate the opportunity for the public comment section. It really gives us citizens an opportunity to let you know our issues and communicate with you. I have another group of people that are becoming, talking about issues that we have, especially with flooding and other issues in the preserve area, but I'm gonna let that leave that for them, and we talk about that. I know the Pine Street project is on the agenda. However, I came before the board just to, with a concern regarding the process for selecting applicants for the Planning Commission. I know that there was a committee selected of Mayor Ulloa and Mike Hargrove, who's the Planning Commission liaison. And I know they sat for several hours and made a decision. I was one of those applicants. Of course, I wasn't one of those that was invited for an interview. And I was notified by administrative assistant through an email that the selection process had taken place. And one of the sentences in the notification kind of raised my eyebrows, and I asked for some process, and I was told that there wasn't a formal process in selection. It said, unfortunately, in considering the qualifications of some of our candidates, your application was not selected at this time. So I then sent a response to see if I could get the criteria by which the selection was made, because I wanted to make sure that the selection wasn't arbitrary and capricious, it wasn't random, and that there had to be some written criterion for how people are selected to come forward for an interview. Again, I was told there was no written criterion, but that it was based primarily on the makeup of the current Planning Commission, which I thought interesting, because I know for a fact there were several really qualified women who had applied that didn't get invited for an interview. And the makeup currently is all male, and of course the 5 chosen were all male. So the makeup, I saw that as puzzling. Secondly, a lot of the areas in planning that the city's dealing with is in the preserve area. You have the Pine Avenue project on the agenda. And none of the candidates that I knew of reside in that area. And so there was an opportunity, as whatever the criterion is that you have a voice in that area and that could communicate with the residents and people in that area. So I just wanted to let the council know that I was perplexed that there's not a written formal criteria by which members of the community are chosen for the Planning Commission. I know that for a fact that one of the members selected is currently serving on another commission. I couldn't find any place in administrative regulations that also says that that person can serve on two commissions simultaneously. And I don't know if that's the intent. If there is any administrative regs, I'd like a copy sent so I could understand it won't be just a guess on my part from the research that I've done of all the administrative regs and everything. So those were my concerns, that in the future, I think transparency is going to be very important. I do thank Councilman Hargrave and Mayor Ulloa for that hard process they went through, but I was perplexed that it was kind of as I saw, kind of a crapshoot in regard to how, because there was no formal written criterion that how you weigh and measure all the experiences and backgrounds. So thank you very much for your audience. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. The next written request to speak is, gosh, I'm so glad when I get my real glasses. Steve Pivarotti? Regarding the flooding in the preserve. There are several written requests to speak on this subject, so I would appreciate perhaps each of you can bring up a little bit different issues instead of just repeating each other.
No problem.
Thank you very
Steve
much,
Pivavarf is my name. Recent move to Chino, resident, live in the preserve area, moved from Whittier. Currently work for a local city as a public works manager, so that's what kind of brought me here tonight to discuss this issue and the lack of response that I saw on Friday. After I did make a call to the city manager's office, we did get a Vector truck was sent out there. That was an idea that I gave to one of the gentlemen I spoke to in the CM's office. I let him know that, you know, what I do as a profession and how I think that we should be more responsive, especially since we had a little break in the weather. There was some dry time there, and water really wasn't accumulating along Kimball, and that street was still closed. So first, before I start though, I do want to thank the city manager and also Nick that came out a few months ago to the Park House. Took their own time. They spent there until about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, addressing some of the residents' concern of the past problem that we have had in the preserve that I never experienced, but I heard of, and I was interested to know how this is going to affect my family and my commute to work. And on Friday, it did affect my wife's commute to work. So she normally takes about 15 minutes to get to Chino Hills, where she works at, and took about 45 minutes. And there was just pretty much one way out of the preserve. So we were just stuck on an island, you could say. And I did send an email message to Mayor Pro Tem, letting him know that I've always wanted island property, but not in Chino. And so, you know, there's a funny meme that's going around on Facebook and all that stuff right now where it shows Kimball and Pine and Euclid and Hamner, and then an island just surrounded by water, you know. And so that's what the residences are discussing right now. And it's just one of those things that I look at. I look at Bickmore, you know, who was the public works inspector on that project to look at some of the trenching failure that has occurred on that project. You know, that was a huge sinkhole that occurred there. Could have caused severe damage to someone's vehicle or an injury to somebody. I would see who inspected that backfill of that. Did they do it appropriately according to standards? The Vector truck issue, again, I would look at, you know, this is the budget season. I'm preparing budgets for my city that I work at right now. Maybe something needs to be considered for a longer temporary solution rather than waiting for the permanent solution, which I know you'll probably get through diff fees and whatnot through the people that are going to be, you know, building out those properties that are there. But maybe there's something else we could do, you know, instead of just waiting for the water to dissipate through natural, you know, osmosis of the water. Also, it might be years before that work is complete. We don't know, you know, what could happen, right? Lawsuits, legal, you know, tie-ups and things like that. And it's nothing against the city staff. They're all working hard to try to do what they can. I'm in the same boat. I understand it's difficult, but, you know, maybe there's just something else that we could do. one term that my wife and I both kept saying this weekend is, we can do better than this, you know? And I think we all deserve it. Any resident that lives in Chino. Most of the closures that happened over this past weekend were all on the south side of town, you know? It was a city that, part of the city that is developed. It's very nice. We enjoy living there. But we also want to be able to enter and leave our community safely and unobstructed, and not take, you know, triple the travel time of what it normally does. I didn't believe it a couple months ago when we met that we would have these issues, but we did. So that's why I'm asking you as city council members, city staff, you know, to please look into it. Maybe there's something else that we can do. I believe that there are other avenues, and it just sometimes things taking outside the box rather than just saying, well, let's wait, you know? The Vector truck, that was, like I said, that's something that I personally would do if it was in my city. And I think I did see them do it, you know, go to the nearest manhole, pump it down, suck up another 1,000 gallons of water, and start doing it. But maybe there's just something we could do, temporary fix that's just a little longer lasting, rather than just waiting for the storm of the century. And we've had how many storms now? And there's been lots of rain, you know, so none of us expected it. We didn't see it last year. We saw it 2 years ago. It's kind of a hit or miss, but it's one of those issues that I think we should just be ready for, because we never know what can happen and who needs to get emergency response team out there for health issues as well. Safety, fire. I mean, God forbid we have to airlift somebody to the hospital because we can't get in. So I appreciate everything the city staff has done, and hope that we could work on a longer solution. Thank you
very much. We do have several other comments about the same subject. When these comments are finished, then I'm going to ask city manager to kind of give a wrap-up of what happened over this extreme rain occurrence, and what had been planned, and what was what staff was planning. Next is Ben Romero.
Hello, Ben Romero. I also live near Steve in the preserve. I also work with Steve in a different department, dealing with other issues related to the city. My biggest gripe with this whole preserve thing, I've been there a resident for 7 years, 12 years in the city. I actually moved from College Park to the preserve for the school. My biggest concern is the lack of response from the mayor pro tem. I emailed, excuse me, the whole council, the CM, on December 7th. He was able to come out the next week to discuss the issues with the other residents at the park house. Never got a response from anybody on the council, which is disheartening. Where I work, they respond to every email. Just dealing with this whole issue, calling in sick because I have a childcare issue, not being able to send my kid to school. He goes to a private school right now. But that's just the main thing. Touching on what Steve said, we're just kind of frustrated. It happens every year. Doesn't matter what type of rain. It could be heavy, it could be a light rain, and the streets are shut off. I will say that the CM did come out, and Nick, the community development director, did come out. I appreciate that. The PD was out there doing shutdowns. Appreciate that. I would just wish it was actually somehow email blasted as opposed to just on Facebook, because you know we're stuck on an island out there, and I'm getting ready to move with dealing with this issue. You know, I could live somewhere else, but I chose to come here to live in Chino, and it doesn't take that long to get a Vector truck to do these simple solutions just to alleviate some of the issues. And I understand the entitlements that need to get for these projects, but I mean, it wasn't thought over. It wasn't thought over overnight for this project. So I understand it's going to take some time, but the lack of response from any one of you guys that when I emailed you is just kind of my biggest gripe for this whole issue.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I will go ahead and respond to that particular thing. There is something called the Brown Act, and if you work in cities, you have a knowledge of that.
Mm-hmm.
When you blast the council, we cannot answer that blast email. because it's automatically a violation of the Brown Act. If you email individual council members, we can respond, but we can't respond to one that's sent to everyone.
Oh, no, I also have, since he's my district representative, I've emailed him back in 2017 when I noticed this issue was occurring.
Well, I want
Yeah.
the audience to
Yeah.
understand that if you send an email to all of
Correct.
us, we legally cannot respond to it.
But,
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, to set the record straight, we
well,
can't.
that's fine, it's just, it was never conveyed to me from
Sure, I
the CM's
understand.
office, hey, you know what, they got it, they received it, this is the direction that we're gonna go.
Well, I'm, like I said, when the
So-
next one or two speakers are finished, then I'm going to have Matt give a wrap-up of everything that was going on in the prison.
problem.
But I appreciate your
All right,
comments.
Let me just indicate that as soon as I do read those emails, I immediately contact the city manager, and he contacts and gets a hold of everybody and lets me know that he got a hold of you immediately after I get those emails. Just want to let you know that.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Thank you, man. Shannon Dee.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Dee. I live in the preserve. I have the same issues. I'll just run through briefly what it is. Flooding, the street conditions, as you all know, sinkhole. Now the road's tore up. It's completely closed. Same issues, can't get in or out. I have an electric vehicle. Can't take it on a rainy day because the electric vehicle sits too low to the ground. So I take a Jeep and went through on, I want to say it was Friday. It was raining. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. And almost in a four-wheel drive was stuck on Bickmore. I didn't know at the time that the road had completely buckled, and I was traveling slowly. Had no idea until I got to work, and then it was daylight, and someone produced those photos. Residential streets down there still don't have capping. I've lived here for 3 years. I was here a year ago. I was here 2 years ago asking about when are our roads going to be capped? Why do the ADA curbs get ripped out 5 or 6 times on just my cul-de-sac? I don't understand. Lewis Development, they need to get it together. Kay Halvinian needs to get it together. And the city needs to get it together. We have a resident in our community that's broke her ankle. I know she's tried to get compensation from the city. It's denied. That's the norm. We get it. But why do I live there for 3 years and my road doesn't have a cap? I have like a huge gap from the curbing to the blacktop. The closures, I know I've spoken with the city manager regarding the closures. They close Pine and they direct all traffic from Eastvale through our neighborhood in front of my house. We're over it. We're done. First, you don't fix the roads, and then you drive another, what is it? How many people come through Pine every day? I don't know, 20,000 people. Our vehicles come through to get to the 71. Why are they coming through our neighborhood? Why are they stopping on our neighborhood streets so that we can't get out of our own cul-de-sac? It's ridiculous. Send those people up Archibald or send them up around to Ontario. I don't know, a bigger thoroughfare. Not Botany, not our surface streets. I too have sent a couple letters and I did not know about this brown whatever. And when I don't get a response, to me that's a FU. That's the way I see it. And I'm sick and tired of writing letters and not getting a response. Why don't you have the city manager send me a letter telling me, hey, if you copy everyone, they're not gonna respond to you. You know, I got that 7-Eleven in my backyard and I sent a letter back then. Not a single response. An invite to come to my house, see what I'm looking at, see what I future is gonna look at. No response, none. Ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that we receive an email or notification that The Chino PD is gonna be at the elementary school in case you can't get home because of our surface streets. Because of the streets in Chino, you're not gonna be able to get your kids out at a timely manner. So we will have Chino PD there for your kids. Are you, what? This is like a third world country. What, you're gonna have the police at our school because the residents can't drive home. Okay, ridiculous. I guess that covers it. Lastly, just a simple thing. I know it's off topic. So we got crammed with this 7-Eleven on the corner, and I've been having a look around. Eastvale, they didn't get the 7-Eleven rainbow effect on their building. It's very monotone. It's all neutral colors. You can barely tell. You can see, you can see it's a gas station, but you're not sure that that's a full-blown, hey, let's rob that 7-Eleven. It doesn't show that way. You go to Chino Hills, just down Pine, around the corner, right there at the 71, same thing. Nice, monotone, light color, whatever. You don't see the rainbow. Oh, but Chino, we're right up there with like old school 1956 Santa Ana. We've got this huge 7-Eleven plastered all over the gas station in the 3 big colors. Like, what are we doing here? We're trying to have a nice, friendly environment, safe community, but we have a huge advertisement of plasticky 7-Eleven now on the corner of the preserve, which wasn't, we all know, which was not supposed to, it was supposed to be homes, but that's long gone now, the whole bait and switch. Anyways, I would hope that somebody here is listening. I understand you're our representative, but you don't do anything, and ridiculous. You're not here for us. I know that. That's clear. I hope that somebody will make Lewis fix these roads, fix the situation, or the city will step in. I know it's a lot of money for sewage, but I've lived in other cities and we've never had a sewer problem ever. This is the first home I've ever purchased with a sewer issue. Yeah, I lived in Corona for 17 years. I had perfect sewage there. I bought it brand new. We never had a flood. We never had a road with extra water on it.
Okay,
Never.
Shannon, you said sewage, but you mean storm drain, right?
Okay, storm drain. Is that what is that?
That's two entirely different.
Okay, we
things.
have
Storm
water
drain problems.
everywhere.
Right,
Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, those are the only written requests to speak on the flooding issues. So I'm going to ask City Manager Ballantyne to please review the conditions, what happened this last weekend, steps that were taken, things that are planned. Matt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thanks to Shannon, Steve, and Ben for your comments. And certainly I received other comments from the community, both through emails and social media. I do want to commend, or take this opportunity to kind of commend our police chief and Linda Reich, who kind of took the lead in my absence. I was actually out of the office on Thursday and Wednesday. We knew, we had a sense of what the incoming rain was going to look like. Specifically, Thursday was of most concern to us. We had a meeting in the morning Thursday, and we had really 3 priorities, particularly down in the preserve. It's important that the preserve was not the only area that was flooded. We did experience flooding in other portions of the city, particularly off of San Antonio Avenue and Benson Avenue in the northern parts of the city. Even the Chino Champion had reported the flooding that occurred not just in Chino, but also in the city of Chino Hills as well, and in our other neighboring communities. But on Thursday, we knew and recognized that we were going to get a significant amount of rain. Over that 3-day period, basically from Thursday to Saturday, we received 3 inches of rain, and we've got about 1 inch of rain within a 2-hour period on Thursday. Knowing that, we had 3 really priorities that we established. One was public safety. We had public safety folks, police that were stationed and deployed within the preserve prior to the flooding of the streets. Cal Aero was of a concern because they were actually letting out school at noon. We just wanted to make sure folks knew that we were going to be out there participating in the dismissal of the classes on Thursday. We actually even had administrative staff out in the rain assisting. It wasn't school district employees, it was actually our staff that was out there assisting the families, and we were able to get everybody home within an hour period during the dismissal of the students. So that was the second priority, was to address the schools. And the third one was try to keep the roads open. Certainly it was a challenge. We do have a section of Kimball that's not approved to the ultimate, and when I say that, I mean from curb to curb. There's sections that don't have curb, which creates a lot of the flooding. It's also important to know regarding our topography and our geographical location that not only are we receiving 3 inches of rain, but we're also receiving all the water that's coming from the north down to Prado Dam, so the foothill communities are contributing to the water situation. On Friday, if Steve suggested using our vac truck, it was very helpful. We spent a majority of the day, I was there with the Public Works folks on Friday, pumping the water off the road so we can take a look at the condition of Kimball Avenue. I do believe, and as suggested, that we can probably look at doing some interim improvements at the location. So I'll be looking with our Public Works Director and see what we can do. But ultimately, people don't realize that the roads are one of the most significant tools to dealing with drainage and really the importance of curb and gutter. And so, it's our hope, both myself and our Development Services Director, to complete, we really want to complete Kimball Avenue, particularly that section between McBride's RV storage, which that area drained well because it does have curb and gutter, and the fire station there off of Kimball. You'll also see along Kimball, they're widening it, particularly the industrial projects that are east of the airport. You'll see that they've been surveyed, and so that portion of the street will be widening. We do have to move some Edison poles there on the north side of Kimball, and we're in the process of working on that. But ultimately, I think the best solution for Kimball is to come up with a better interim solution, if not the ultimate solution there. As far as Pine Avenue, the council has authorized the city to use eminent domain, which is kind of a last resort effort to acquire some land so that we can widen Pine Avenue. That's another important corridor that we'd like to ultimately get the ultimate improvements in there, because that would also help with drainage. But we have to, in order to widen Pine Avenue, we need to acquire the land to the south, particularly in front of the women's prison, that area. So we're in the process of forcing that property owner to sell that property to us, and we're in negotiations, but ultimately that might be decided by a court. And so that is a last resort, but the council has identified that as a priority, and we want to get Pine Avenue completed. I'll conclude. Again, I understand and appreciate the frustration expressed to not only the 3 members of the community that had spoke, but to the other members of the community down in the preserve who have expressed their concerns to me. But, in reality, all these public improvements require money. And we've built roughly about 30 to 40% of the preserve. That means we've only collected 30 to 40% of the fees necessary to make all the public improvements. Once the preserve is fully developed and we collect all the fee, all these public improvements will be in place, and that's the purpose of our development impact fee program. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I hear what you're saying down in the preserve, and I also think, frankly, I can do a better job of communicating these public improvements that are occurring down in the preserve. With that, I'll
Matt, would you also cover the issue that we have with the airport drainage as well, which is one
Sure.
of the things that caused that section of Kimball to flood so badly?
So if you were out, I had I was fortunate that during that closure, I was actually out on Kimball Avenue, and if you look to the north, there's kind of a ponding of water that occurs and all the runoff, not only from the airport, but in fact, a lot of the runoff comes from Ontario that transverses through the airport and comes down, crosses Kimball, and then it goes over the Kimball, and then you'll see a spreading ground to the south. Both were filled with water, and hence we had our vacuum truck out there. The county owns and operates the airport. They have designed some box culverts that are supposed to go underneath Kimball Avenue. They've been working on that for roughly about 3 years. At least they've had discussions about doing it. And they are to install that, but we may approach the county and see if we can either accelerate that or the city take over that project, and certainly that the county just reimburse us for that. In addition, I know that there's some development activity that's occurring in that immediate area, and it may even be a requirement of the developer to put in those public improvements. But at the end of the day, we are receiving a significant amount of water from the airport. The county recognizes that. They're supposed to put culverts in, and they have not to date.
Also, I had a meeting on Thursday up in Rancho Cucamonga, and coming home from Rancho, didn't want to use the freeways, so used a lot of the surface streets, and the amount of water that was in Rancho and Ontario was frightening. There were some intersections, cars were stuck, but there was a bicyclist that was trying to walk his bike through the intersection, and it literally was up to his waist. All of that water traveled south. It was incredible. There was an incredible amount of water. The other thing that happens to us in the preserve, unfortunately, is there is a percolation basin at Grove and Riverside Drive that's operated by the county. When that fills up to a certain point, they let that water go. So all of that goes down Grove, across the airport, and into the preserve. And until Ontario has built out, just as we're struggling with the preserve, all of that water is going to continue to just flow south. So sadly enough, with growth, staged growth also comes growing pains and difficulties that we all deal with. That amount of water was just unprecedented. I'd never actually seen it that bad for a long time. The streets will never be improved to meet all of the conditions, especially in extreme conditions like that. There's not enough money in the world to build them for a 200-year flood, or a rainstorm. So there are always going to be some difficulties. But I too appreciate all the comments that were made, as I'm sure I'm equally speaking for all of our council. It is a struggle, and if there's a better way, Mr. Pavaroff, Steve, I appreciate your comments and your expertise and your suggestions. None of us have all of the answers. None of us know everything that can be done, and so any input from the public or expertise is always welcomed. I apologize for misunderstanding and communication. We've talked about the Brown Act so long and struggled with it so much that Shannon, I apologize to you, but we can't answer mass emails that are put out. We just can't. We can't legally answer that. Individually, if you address each individual council member, then it's up to that council member to respond. But Matt, most of us do funnel all of our concerns through Matt so that we won't get into any kind of legal problems with the Brown Act. And our staff does a pretty doggone good job of answering those. Friday, I too was down. I went with Matt actually, and we drove around, saw the sinkhole. That couldn't have been foreseen. It was inspected, and supposedly that compaction was done according to regulations, and apparently it was not. So once that, how water is so powerful, once it was able to get underneath that pavement, it just eroded and ate it away. Thank God nobody fell into it, which, as we all know, watching the news, has happened in communities. I'm so thankful that that staff was notified. I think it was actually by residents that noticed it. They were able to get out there and block off that street and made a demand of the developer that you work over the weekend to get that fixed. These things are going to happen, as you know. They just are going to happen. But it takes all of us working together to keep everybody safe. Mr. Howie, would you like to?
Yeah, I drove down last weekend too to look at the conditions, and I hadn't seen conditions that bad in a long time. Maybe back even when the dairies were there, we used to drive and all the streets were flooded and just really, really bad. I think when Eunice and I were part of the council that annexed the preserve 15 years ago, and we obviously in those days anticipated development would go a lot faster than it did and than it has, and including the Ontario portion, which we talked about. We get a tremendous amount of water coming down there from Ontario. Their dairy preserve has developed either, which would mitigate some of those concerns with water. Yeah, it's a tough situation, you know. Luckily, we don't get those kind of rains all the time, but I know the frustration level in the preserve is rough because you've been down there for many years, and we just haven't had a chance to get things widened and developed. We are trying. I have been working extremely hard on Pine Avenue to get that open all the way to the 71 for about the last 9 years, in trying to secure the proper permits and the grant funding. Our council has been trying to get Pine Avenue opened all the way, and we're going to have an item on that later on. I'm going to have some comments about that. Matt, maybe some things that we could do down there would be maybe to send a regular newsletter out from the city that could indicate what the updates on the development projects and where we are with the projects from that. Also, is it possible we could get some regular hours maybe at the park house of our city staff? We could have development and also city and some of the departments come down and make available for residents' concerns to come over and talk about the concerns or any suggestions that you might have, and possibly we could do that. Also, I think we should hold a community meeting in the preserve. We haven't done that in a long time. I think that would be a good idea, as long as many years ago we did have a council meeting down there, and I think maybe once a quarter or once every 3 or 4 times a year we could actually hold a council meeting down there and let the residents come. What do you think about that, Eunice? I think that would be a good idea also.
It would, and Councilman Hargrove has also suggested that we have something similar that Chino Hills tried for a while, and that's PopUp Governments, where a council member and a couple of staff members are available at a very frequented public area. Now in the preserve we don't have any commercial development, so maybe the pop-up could be at the preserve house. But I know Chino Hills does it at like a local grocery store that's
Right.
frequented, something like that. But communication always helps. The difficulty is reality is as Steve mentioned also, I think he and Ben both are sensitive to this. There's just, cities develop as money comes in, and money comes in as development happens. It's done incrementally unless you're blessed enough to have, $1 billion in reserves or something. But okay, anyway, we have one more written request to speak. Get back on track here. It's Mr. Zeb Wellborn from the Chamber.
Good evening. First off, I wanted to thank all of you, through over the years, whether it be through the Chamber of Commerce or through the Chino Rotary Club. I've had a chance to chat with each one of you, and I know that you have a strong passion to help support our business community, and that's something that I'm very thankful for as an individual. So I want to thank you for that. It's been, so I took over the Chamber as the Executive Director in July, and this is my first time kind of chatting with you as the Executive Director from the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. I've been busy trying to make sure that I was getting the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce in the place that I thought I wanted it to be. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about the progress that we've made so far and go from there. So I've had 3 goals since I took over. The goals were to increase our membership, to increase the amount of large businesses participating in our chamber, and to increase, we do through the chamber, for those of you that aren't aware, is we'll put on events from time to time to try and connect the business community with people like yourselves and other elected officials and things like that. So I wanted to increase our attendance and participation in those events. So far, we've increased our membership. In March, we had about 319 members. To date, we have 385, so we've increased it. You do the math on that. 66 members, I think. In terms of our big businesses, we brought in several large sponsors, which we hadn't done in quite some time. So we brought in 4 large sponsors at the beginning of the year. So they're now participating in the events we have going on for the future. And then our events are over the year since taking over in July, our events have grown by 29%, which is higher than what we had anticipated and hoped for in the chamber. So I just wanted to share with you that our chamber is growing, and I feel like there's a good opportunity with our business community to make a difference and impact in the growth of our business community as a whole. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. I also want to make you aware of a couple upcoming things that we have going on with our Chamber of Commerce. Number one is on Thursday, so in two days from today, we're having a mixer at Lobo Printing. Lobo Printing is a business in Chino. They produce those little lanyards that they do the printing on those lanyards that come out. A very successful business. He told me that they have about 60% of all of the conferences that you see. They're the ones that produce those little lanyards. So he's got a really nice facility over there. It's our new member mixer. So we're inviting all new members who've joined in the past 6 months to kind of set up a booth, introduce them to the community at large, to introduce them to our business owners and our members of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. So everybody is invited. Anybody who wants to attend, we're going to have it there. We have 20 new businesses that are going to be participating in that. So I'd strongly encourage you to attend to meet these new businesses who have taken up shop in Chino and Chino Hills.
What date and time?
So it's Thursday. This Thursday, the 21st is the date, and it's from 5 to 7. And Lobo Printing is located at 4020 Cheyenne Court.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, and the last thing is we have one of our major events throughout the year is our Salute to Public Safety. So that's happening on March 14th at Los Serranos Country Club. It's from 11:30 to 1:30, and that's where our business community comes together to honor our local, Chino Police, Chino Valley Fire, and Chino Hills Sheriff. So we'll have a program set in place. We'll also have awards and recognition for those that have been chosen by those select departments on the lunch that we have there. So I'd strongly encourage all of you to attend if you have an interest in supporting and showing your support of our local first responders. That would be a great thing to attend as well. So with that, I want to thank you and hope to see you at both of those events. Thanks.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, we have a tradition here at the Chino Council meetings, and that is that all students that are in the audience are invited to come up, give your name, your school, class you're attending, the teacher of the class that you're attending, on why you're here, which is a requirement, I believe, of your classes. This will put you on TV, and there'll be a record for your teacher to see that you really came, so you get credit for the class. So open up the mic, please come forward and let us know who you are. Who's first? A brave young man, everybody else still sitting. You have to stand up and get in line.
Hi, my name is Antonio Alfaro. I go to Don Antonio Lugo High School. I'm here for my government class, Mr. Pope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexi Montenegro. I go to Don Antonio Lugo High School. I'm a senior, and I'm here for Mr. Pope's class to complete a government assignment.
What's your last name, Elizabeth? What's your last name?
Oh, Montenegro.
Okay.
My name is Ruth Verdugo. I'm also a senior at Don Antonio Lugo High School, and I'm also here to finish my Mr. Pope's government class assignment.
And your teacher?
Mr. Pope.
Mr. Pope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samuel Malgan. Excuse me, I go to Don Lugo High School, if you couldn't tell. I'm here from Mrs. Carpentier's class. We're here to fill in our student government participation project, and it's for our grades.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ruben Lopez, and I go to Don Lugo High School, and I am completing an assignment for Mrs. Carpentier government class.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Parker Lebrano. I go to Don Lugo High School, and I'm here for a government assignment for my teacher, Carpentier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Molina. I'm here for Don Lugo for an assignment from Mr. Carpentier's
Are you
class.
really that bored? Really? Okay. Wake up. Thank you. Okay, there's a lot of other students sitting in the audience. Come on, this is your last chance. Come on. Come on. Come on. You won't get credit.
I'm Kaylin Bounds. I go on Don Antonio Lugo, and I'm finishing my community project.
Okay, hang on just a moment. Gentlemen, would you please not talk out loud? Thank you. Go ahead, do it again, please.
I'm Kaylin Bounds. I go to Don Antonio Lugo, and I'm finishing a project for Mr. Pope.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Alvarado. I go to Don Lugo. My teacher is Mrs. Carpentier, and I'm here to complete a participant project. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Murillo, and I'm here to complete as an assignment for my teacher at Don Lugo, Mr. Pope.
Okay. What's your class?
Government.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm here to complete an assignment from Mr. Pope.
From Don Lugo Government. Okay.
My name is Alexis Flores, and I'm here to complete an assignment for history for Mr. Pope, and I go to Don Lugo.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sebastian Ramos. I go to Don Antonio Lugo High School, and I'm here to participate for the project for Mr. Pope.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Noemi Reyes, and I go to Don Antonio Lugo, and I'm here to finish a project for my government class. My teacher is Ms. Carpentier.
Thank you.
I'm Stephen Quadras, Don Lugo High School, here for Mr. Pope's government.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roman Barba. I'm from Don Antonio Lugo, and I'm finishing a government project for Mr. Pope.
Thank you very much. Now, is there anybody else that hasn't come up yet? Somebody's pointing at a gentleman with a brown knit cap on, with a plaid shirt and a hoodie. Here he comes.
My name is Isaac Frias. I'm a senior. I go to Chino High School. I'm here for the fun of it.
For the fun of it. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Anyone else? Oh, I see fingers being pointed again. A gentleman in the back row, or standing against the wall. Aha, standing against the wall. Look, they're all pointing at each other. Come on, there's four or five against the back wall. Come on. You're almost as red as your shirt.
A little bit. I'm Isaac Perez. I'm with I attend Don Antonio Lugo, and I'm here for Mr. Pope's government class to complete a project.
Thank you. Thank you for looking so nice. The rest of you against the wall? Last chance. We're going to move on. Okay. We will close public communication. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. At this time, there's one more? Okay. Oh, one more speaker? I apologize. I forgot to ask anyone who had not filled out an application.
I'm David George, and I've been in Chino for 89 years.
Oh, my gosh.
And I had Dave and Ty's Auto Center and Dave and Ty's Texaco. And I had the Texaco station for 30 years over on Ramona and Riverside Drive. I had that for 10 years, and they gave my lease away, so I had to go to Pomona. So anyway, I graduated from Chino High, and I've been in Chino all my life, and I really like Chino. And I'm here to bring out my uncle. His name is Sam Maloof, and I've been wanting to somehow to get him recognized in Chino. He was born here on 6th Street, and he went to Chino High, and he's well known in Claremont, and he's a top furniture designer in the United States. So I want something brought to him for here in Chino to recognize him, since he was born here, went to Chino High School, and he put up the first Chino sign on Central Avenue way on back.
Oh, really?
And he was an artist,
Yes.
too, and I have articles about him from the Courier they represent him real well. But I want something done for him here in Chino, either a sign or maybe a street named after him, and the house on 6th Street where he was born.
Is the house still standing?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
Oh, I'll be.
I left there when I was 27, and so we were all brought up there.
Okay.
And one more thing, he has a cross in the Methodist Church in Chino that he built and gave it to the church. And then over in, he has a historical place in El Toloma, and you can go visit that, and I think it's about,
I've been there.
yeah, well, it's probably about $5 to get in, which is nothing. And it shows how he made his furniture.
Right.
And he had Carter come to his house all the time, President Carter. And he has a chair that went in the White House, and Reagan took that home. So if you give something to the president or something, you have to specify that it stays there. If not, the president can take it.
Take it.
And so that's what happened. So President Reagan, he took the chair, and so his furniture is still being built by kids that he hired when they were in high school. And so it's still going on.
Yeah, the place in Ranch Cucamonga that they built, when they relocated his
Yes.
house and stuff, they built a replica of the shop.
Yeah, they moved everything.
Yes,
And that's,
they had to because of the 210
yeah,
freeway.
the freeway was going
Right.
through.
Uh-huh.
And so I just wanted him to be represented here if possible, some way.
Okay, we will look into that.
Okay,
We
thank you
absolutely
very
will.
much.
Thank you
and
very much.
Bye.
And can we get a copy of your documents? Can we have a copy of your documents? Well, not right this minute. Maybe provide them with Angela, and she can get a copy and then get them back to you. Thank you very much for being here. Is there anyone else who did not fill out a request to speak, who would like to address the council?
I knew a Comstock, but he's not related. He was in the institution.
I'm Brenda Dunkel from the Chino Champion newspaper. I usually don't speak at meetings. I usually just cover them. But following up on what Mr. George said, I used to go to church with Mr. Maloof in Ontario, and he talked constantly about Chino. Even though he hadn't lived in Chino for years, he could actually name every old business, where it was located, what was next to it. I was amazed at his fondness for Chino, considering that he'd been gone for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
He talked about the city constantly and how he loved living here and how he loved growing up here. And I just wanted to add that because I knew him personally, and I just wanted you to know that.
That's
Thank
great
you.
to know. I had no idea that he had a connection with Chino at all. That's very interesting. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Prior to a vote on the consent calendar, I would like to announce that I will cast an abstention to the February 5th minutes due to my absence at that meeting, and then additionally, Mayor Pro Tem Howie and myself will recuse ourselves from item number 5 as we both own stock in Chino Commercial Bank. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I want to pull item 9 also.
You want to pull item number 9? Okay.
Right, yeah, but-
Oh, to give information? Okay, we will pull item number 9. We're not going to pull the other 2 items. It'll just be noted that we're abstaining from those. Okay, I would ask for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
It's not working. Is it not working?
Anybody push? Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
green-
it's
we have
there. Oh, there,
somebody's pushing
okay.
the green button.
There's a motion from Councilman Hargrove, second from Councilman Rodriguez. Please vote. Well, we don't have to push abstain. They're going to note it in the records. Okay, so vote, Tom. Vote yes. They're going to note the abstention on the 2 items.
Okay. Well,
Try your little thingy. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Howie's screen is not working, so let the record show that the voting was unanimous. His screen's just not reacting. Okay, item number 9, you wanted to have that one pulled, Tom?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss the Pine Avenue, get an update. Can we get our Public Works Director, or Matt, do you want to update us on what's happening?
Mayor and council members, this item is an update on Pine Avenue project. It's widening of Pine Avenue, an extension to from Euclid to State Route 71. In 2009, city received $6.8 million in federal funds for this project. We have 8.4 total available for this project. In 2011, city contracted with Hewitt Solar to start the design of this project. Early on, we encountered a lot of problems relating to environmental issues and traffic issues. We are building in a floodplain. We are also building in an environmentally sensitive area. City staff and the consultant has been working on the issues with Army Corps of Engineers and Caltrans. We've submitted revised plans and technical studies to Army Corps of Engineers. Early this year, on the 2nd of January, we are awaiting their response to those studies. Once they're approved, we can proceed with the design of the projects. We're at 35% complete. We need to start the next phase, which is 65% design for the project. There were also traffic issues. Recently, we had meetings with Caltrans where we discussed the extension of Pine. When it gets to State Route 71, causes so much traffic that the level of service drops to F. The bridge that was built cannot hold the traffic that will be coming on Pine Avenue and trying to get on to the State Route 71. Caltrans was adamant in trying to add that section to the project itself. We discussed with them the issues of doing that. It would extend the scope, it would extend the time it would take to do the studies. So we work with them in making that as a separate project. We will be looking at the ramps on State Route 71 and trying to space them out further to allow the traffic to move faster so we can get the level of service down to an acceptable level, a C or a D even. But by doing that, it's going to cost an additional $2 million. We are planning to submit a request to Caltrans for assistance on that project, and we will be submitting a request for $1 million. Total cost is $2 million. They would like the project to be done along with the rest of the project, or at least ahead of it. Caltrans is also reviewing our environmental documents, all the studies that we submitted to them, and we believe we'll get them approved in the next few months. We have to amend the agreement now. Because of all the additional costs, the cost of design has gone up quite significantly. We expect that cost to be around $1.6 million. That portion of the design cost is still covered by federal grant, so we have submitted to Caltrans a request to amend the funding available for design, and we're waiting for their response on that as well. I've attached the milestones on this project to this report on page 62. We're waiting. We're also, since we get the grant in 2009, we are at the 10-year limit of expending the funds. We have submitted a 3-year extension to Caltrans, and we're waiting for FHWA to respond to that request as well. We are waiting for Caltrans to amend the finance plan, which will allow us to spend additional money on the design from the grant that we received in 2009. We will be bringing the amendment to the contract with the consultant in March of 2019 this year. We expect the Army Corps of Engineers to provide us with their approval around April of this year. We're working diligently to respond to any questions that they raise. We do want to proceed with the design to 65% so we can have better cost estimates and we can start finishing up the environmental work. We do need to acquire right-of-way, as was mentioned earlier. We plan to complete that by December of this year. And then environmental documents will be complete by June or July of next year in 2020. We can finalize the plan right after that. It would be like around July and August of next year. We do need to obtain permits once environmental studies are completed, and that takes another 5 to 6 months to get the permits. And so that puts us in January of 2021 to be able to advertise. Now, even if we do all that, we do not have full funding for the project. The cost of the project right now is around $40 million. What we have available to us is $8.4 million. We had a meeting with SBCTA staff on finding some funding, grant fundings from state or at federal level, and also being able to utilize. We do have a portion of funds that are available to us through MyURI. We're trying to see if we can capture as much of that fund as possible early on and apply to this project. So we'll be working with SBCTA, with any other agency. As it was mentioned earlier, the lot of traffic that comes through comes from Eastvale, and they're going to Orange County or they're going to Chino Hills. We are working with Chino Hills as well to be able to get some funding, apply for grants together. But it is an important project. It's a regional project, and cities is actually building a project that will allow traffic to travel from Riverside County to Orange County. And so in doing that, I think we should maximize our effort to get grant funds at the state and federal level and to be able to build this project. If we can get all this done, we can have this project completed in 2023.
What about Riverside County's participation because of Eastvale? Is there any hope at all of getting them to participate or at least be supportive of some kind of legislation?
It should be. We should contact them. I plan to contact RCTC and see how supportive they are. There are SB1 grants coming up, and if they support us along with the Eastvale and Chino Hills and other agencies, I think we'll have a good shot at getting some funding through that. So I think that's a good point. We should approach them and ask for their help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, comments. Well, obviously, the off-ramp is in Chino Hills, and as you come down into Chino, a little ways, then we take over. That's going to be ours. So we are working with Chino Hills. They have committed some dollars for us. We're continually looking for grant funding and any money that can help go with that. But it's a very complicated issue because you've got so many different entities that have to agree and have to give us the ability to get these permits from working with Caltrans, working with the Army Corps, government, Army Corps of Engineers, trying to get all of these things in line. Once we can get to 65% completed, then it's much easier to get money from the. I was going to say it's much easier to get money from the federal government. Take it back. It's not easy to get money from the federal government for sure. But when you go back and you discuss funding opportunities, when you can show that you're 65% there, you get their attention. So hopefully some infrastructure bills will be coming forward, and I like the fact that you've got us in a situation within 24 months we could be ready to go out to bid if we can get everything all lined up.
If you get it shovel ready.
And shovel ready, and we haven't been there for 10 years. So this is a long process that we've been going through, and I'm very excited that we're getting to the point where we're really going to get serious now. So.
Is there any hope at all of the restriping of 71? Because they were supposed to do that years ago in Adel Lane.
That's in Riverside County. The Riverside County there is a project that allows for extension and widening of 71. But that's in Riverside County.
This was just restriping they were supposed to do, Eimer.
Restriping on the
71.
Yeah, I can check and see where they are with that. Yeah.
And any news on Euclid Avenue, on the bridge there being widened?
I have not heard anything on Euclid Avenue, the bridge being widened.
Because that's another bottleneck that's going to continue to be an issue.
Yeah, that's a mile-long bridge, and it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars for Euclid Avenue.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions of Eimer? Comments?
No,
yes.
So I'm hopeful that we'll reach out to Congresswoman Norma Torres. As I've been told, she's on a transportation committee now. She's been there, and she's also on appropriations committee, which we were advised during a recent meeting that she's one of the very few that have, they need an exception to be on both those committees. So it's very unusual to have a congresswoman that represents our area and our district that's in a nice position like that in Washington. So
And
we need to
we've,
make sure
we-
we contact,
We
reach
have,
out to her.
we're going to continue to
meet with her,
contact her,
right?
and
Are you meeting with her?
I'll
when
be
you
meeting
go?
with her in about 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it's important to note that Congresswoman Norma Torres had a meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers, their main colonel, specifically to seek improvement or approval of the Pine Avenue Connector project. And so I'm kind of following up with staff to find out what the outcome of that meeting was, but that occurred last week in DC.
Good. Good. Thank you very much, Homer. Okay, so we need to vote separately on item number 9 since it was pulled, so I would entertain a motion.
Oh, wait.
No, still won't, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion from Councilman Hargrove, second from Councilman Rodriguez. Please vote.
Mine's a yes.
Tom is a yes, so the item passes unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is mayor and council reports. So let's see, for my report, on February 6th, which was a Wednesday, I attended the Omnitrans San Bernardino and San Bernardino County Transportation Association Boards of Directors. On Thursday the 7th, Councilman Lucio and I met with our city manager, Matt Ballantyne, and members of the Chino Valley Fire District to discuss items of mutual interest. Later that afternoon, I attended the Inland Empire Utilities Agency Sewer Policy Committee. On Friday the 8th, at his request, I met with Eric Bernstein, who represents Francis Estates. Francis Estates, as you all may recall, is a proposed development in the county within the Chino sphere of influence on property at the northwest corner of Yorba and Francis. Eric expressed that the developer does not want to wait for the sphere of influence study and public hearings, which will lead to determining the best usage of the entire area, but instead wants to push ahead and resurrect their plans to develop at a higher density than what is currently zoned. I listened to his concerns and then re-emphasized my commitment to the sphere of influence study, the public hearings, and developing a comprehensive plan for the entire sphere to ensure a well-planned, balanced addition to the city of Chino that we can all be proud of decades from now. Following that, I met with Raju Gatula and Aruna Reddy regarding a Hindu temple that's in the sphere of influence county area south of Walnut, west of Roswell, that they have applied for a permit with the county to build. On Monday, the 11th, Councilman Hargrove and I reviewed the 21 applications for the Planning Commission and narrowed it down to 5, which 4 of the applicants were interviewed this evening. And members Kevin Cisneros and Jimmy Alexandris were chosen to fill the 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission. On Tuesday, the 12th, I attended the San Bernardino County State of the County, held at Citizens Business Bank Arena along with other council members. On Thursday, the 14th, I attended the Watermaster Appropriate Pool meeting. Friday, I toured the preserve flooding area with our city manager, Matt Ballantyne. And Saturday, the 16th, I attended the funeral of former Rancho Cucamonga Mayor Bill Alexander. It was a very, very touching service. And the current mayor, Dennis Michaels, gave an excellent tribute to Bill Alexander, who'd been, serving the public for over 30 years. And he's really going to be missed. He was a very, very sincere individual, and he had just retired in December and then passed away. And, yeah, it was really a tragic. Mayor Pro Tem Howie, your report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On February the 6th, I attended our police department's swearing in of our new sworn and civilian personnel, and that Chief Comstock did a great job, as usual, of swearing them in, and the families were there, and it was exciting. It's always great to see them get their badge pinning, and they're so proud and so happy, and I'm sure they'll have long careers ahead of them. On the 7th, I attended the CDA board. That's the Chino Desalter Authority. We had a board meeting, and also we had interviews for a new general manager, and we picked a new general manager.
Who was it?
Tom O'Neill. So if he accepts it, he's been around a long time, and he's retiring from Ontario, and he's got more. He's started the CDA practically, so he
Right.
knows really a lot about the CDA, and he's going to be a new general manager.
Excellent.
Coming up soon. We got on the 12th with you and a couple of other council members. We attended the San Bernardino State of the County address from our own 4th District Supervisor Kurt Hagman, who lives right here in Chino Hills. Kurt did a nice job, and the county had a nice presentation. And every year they do a nice job with their State of the County. Also attended on the 14th the San Bernardino the CDA, the Transit Authority, got a little tongue-tied there, the study session in the pouring rain, and it was solid rain all the way there, and you could barely see, but attendance wasn't that great. But there was a number of people there for the study session. And then last Saturday night, I attended the Kiwanis fundraiser play. The Kiwanis play is always an exciting event. It was a good play. We have a number of city employees that participate in the play, and it's funny. It's good to see them come out of their shell and take on their parts with all the dialogue and all the exciting things. So good job to those employees. That's it.
Okay, Councilman Hargrove.
All right, so a lot of these I attended also, but I'll try to get through this list here. February 6th, I also had a meeting with Borstein Enterprises regarding the Chino Francis Estates. They presented their plan as they're proposing a new plan, I guess some modifications to it. I was happy to listen to their presentation and told them that it's totally up to them what they decide they want to do, so I'll leave it up to them. Also that afternoon, I attended the Chino Police Department swearing-in ceremony, nice ceremony. Always appreciative. The thing that jumps out at me is, boy, those people are young.
Oh, I know.
It makes me feel so old now. I remember those days. So good luck to them in their careers, and I know that they'll do a great job. On February 7th, the next day, I attended the League of California Cities new member council meeting we had. Just really was an introduction to everybody around the area. If they showed up, many of them that we've seen repeatedly now. It's always me and Mark and sometimes Paul and the same people from wherever they come from. But it's great to get to know them and to hear their stories of their cities and the struggles and the accomplishments, and then compare ours and know how much better we're doing than them. So
Makes you not feel so alone, right?
yeah, well, it does, yeah. And then February 8th, the following day, I met with Amanda Stevenson from David Turk and Associates, who are the City of Chino lobbyists in Washington, D.C. It was nice meeting her. She basically just wanted to meet with new council. Myself and Mark attended and talked to her. Gave some good input, I think. I know we've struggled with whether that is something we want to continue to support financially, but she had some good ideas, so I was appreciative to hear from her. And then that same day, I also met with, it's called Sutherland Senior Housing Project out on Chino Avenue in the 71. They want to present their senior housing project they'd like to propose. They're in the county. They'd like to annex in, of course, and beautiful facility. They just said they're, seem to be struggling with some of the residents around not wanting to annex in. They were fully aware of all of Chino's current sphere of influence report that needs to come out and all that. They were just trying to present their, at least what I saw, they were trying to present their project and see how much support was in it. It's something that's really needed, senior housing. They gave us a cost analysis and all that. Seemed to be pretty reasonable, but again, it was kind of one of those things like, I can't tell you yes or no. I just can tell you that you got to do what you want to do, and we'll certainly look at it fairly. And so they were really satisfied, I think. That's I know it's over there. I can't remember the name of the street over there, but in case anybody's wanting off of Chino and remember Serenity Trail. Yeah, Serenity Trail. So then on February 12th, I attended both the CIM and CIW Citizens Advisory Committee down at the Chino Chaffee College community. One of the highlights, of course, they went over quite a thing. It's a public meeting. Anyone's allowed to come to that meeting. Feel free to look on. I know the Chino Champion puts out when it's available, when they do it every other month. One of the things noted was CIM recently spent $125,000 on fencing and lighting repairs. So it's always nice to note that they're actually spending money on improvements. That's probably just a drop in the bucket, quite honestly, but it was something notable.
How much is it that they're supposed to spend every year?
Millions, 25, 30 million, something like that. So they have spent, I don't know, a point something percent. Anyways, CIW also was there. They have talked about lighting. Everybody's going to the LED lighting, of course. Hopefully it's not a big glow in the, spotlight. Hopefully it doesn't cause that much effect, although I think it would be better in the long term, money and energy savings and those kind of things. So that was those two things. The next day, on February 13th, I attended the Chino Valley Unified School District Measure G Oversight Committee. Yeah, you talk about millions of dollars. Ooh-wee. $750 million, up to $750 million bond. They currently have pulled about $208 million. A lot of upgrades to safety and security of the schools in South Ontario, Chino and Chino Hills. Those include a Raptor system, which is when a visitor comes in, they have to scan their ID, and it researches a database to make sure there's no criminal elements trying to attempt to come in, or if there is. And one of the biggest projects, of course, is Chino High School. They're at phase 0, which is basically the repositioning of the school, getting the fields ready. I know they're working with the city of Chino and trying to accomplish some of those things so they can get ready for the new school year, or, the flopping of the school.
What's the estimate cost of Chino High School, the new one?
Well, initially, like everything else in the world, 3 or 4 years ago when they looked at that, and then 2 years ago when they planned for it, about $120 million was budgeted for it. I suspect, although they don't have the numbers, because they say cost of construction goes up about 5% per month, not per year,
kidding.
per month. So with all the tariffs and all those things going on in construction, one of their biggest struggles, quite honestly, I think, they have a new construction management company, is the availability of personnel to build, construct. People, it's tough, when you get unemployment that's supposedly at 3%, it's hard to find good people to work for you and build things. So, but they're doing a good job. I've driven by there quite frequently. They seem to be keeping everything contained within the perimeter. The one thing that was commented, that Chino has great soil. So great
There's
dirt.
no rocks, yeah.
It drains well. You go to Chino Hills and their projects up there is clay, and they just can't get the water off to even continue. So everything's are delays, where Chino's not being delayed too much, but it's about 2 weeks behind.
So the 208 million does not include the 120 million projected budget for Chino High.
Yeah, phase 1 would be an allocation of that $120 million, and then there's a phase 2. So the first phase will be the administration building going on, what's that street? Jefferson.
Yeah.
Where they're gonna flop it, and then the other half will be allocated. I suspect probably I'm guessing 150, 160, probably another $40 million just to complete that.
So they'll probably be at 50% of their total bonding just to get Chino High School done with
Well,
what
they
they've
have
already done.
5 phasings, so up to 750. So you figure 208 million pulled in the first bond.
Plus another 150 for Chino High.
It'll be over 50%.
Wow.
Hey, do you know is that prevailing wage for those?
Has
for
to
that?
be.
It's all prevailing wage, right?
Has to be.
Wow.
Which is super expensive.
That's expensive.
That's correct.
Wow. Well, shortage of personnel because of the fires and the floods and all of that. Yeah. Construction. Wow, Mark.
Okay, I'm trying to get through this thing here. So also attended February 16th, the assembly member of the Freddy Rodriguez, 52nd District.
Yeah.
Gave some great information. I would recommend anybody go to his website. He has great staff working for them. They're extremely knowledgeable of what's going on in the community. And then lastly, on February 19th today, I attended the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors meeting. which Zeb gave all my report about all their great things they're doing and the attendance and all that. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Lucio.
I just want to start off on our February 5th meeting. I misspoke when I said that I attended the Chino Valley Unified School District meeting on the 17th and that they recalled their lawsuit on prayer in school. It wasn't prayer in school, it was prayer during their meetings. So I misspoke on that. I just want to clarify that. On February 7th, I attended the League of California Cities welcome dinner for new council members. I also, on February 13th, I attended the Chino Valley Independent Fire District meeting, and during that meeting, they gave away awards to Firefighter of the Year, they awarded the captain with an award for outstanding training for the year, as well as recognizing their explorers. I'm not going to repeat the meetings that I attended with our fellow council members. You've all heard those. One thing I did want to say is to the people in the preserve, your comments are not falling on deaf ears. My son lives in the preserve, so the preserve does have some impact on me. So just know that there's nobody up here that is ignoring you. We all know that there's an issue down there. We're definitely going to work towards getting a fix and making sure that it gets rectified. I also wanted to bring up on February 17th, Sunday morning, we lost the San Bernardino County Sheriff, Nicholas O'Laughlin, who was killed by a suspected drunk driver. I just wanted to also point out that today, February 19th, in the early morning hours on the 60 freeway just east of the 605 freeway, those two CHP officers that were dealing with a stranded vehicle and another suspected drunk driver hit them and injured them as well. And I just want to remind the public, in this era of Uber and Lyft designating drivers, let's not forget that drinking and driving is not something that should be done, especially marijuana use in driving. That's just as bad. If you look on websites for Colorado that legalized smoking marijuana and making it legal, their fatality rates are going up as well. So just because marijuana is legal now, it doesn't mean that you can drive. You're still under the influence. You're still causing accidents. So I would urge everybody to please, before you get behind the wheel, make sure you get a designated driver or be able to contact Lyft or one of the other companies to ensure that you get home safely as well as everybody else. That's it.
Excellent comments. Councilman Rodriguez.
I also have attended many of the same meetings that my fellow council members have attended, so I won't speak about those. They were all very interesting. But on February 7th, I did attend the SCAG meeting in Los Angeles, and one of the main issues was presented by ARP, that showed us data that there's an increasing senior population in our communities, and probably within 5 years, the majority of people living in our communities will be 65 and above. So that's right around the corner. And likewise, they spoke about transportation, how SCAG and different communities and different cities are working with ways to decrease transportation and congestion on freeways and different use of technology and Omni trains and all that. So all of Southern California is quite involved with that and being affected by transportation. February 15th and 16th, I was honored to attend the USC two-day seminar for leadership capacity building on the campus from, it was Friday morning, 8:30 to 5 o'clock. They were long days, but very, very powerful discussions, and I'll just name a few of them. Edison did have a discussion concerning a power grid that they're developing that is going to be technologically upgraded that will meet the needs of all of Southern California, which includes Chino, excuse me. And then I met the CEO from the West Coast that represents Oracle. And he is a very, very nice, friendly, relational person that will look even into the technology that we have in Chino for possible upgrades. We have a beautiful website, and I mentioned, hey, we have a beautiful website. Well, it's more like a book cover. You know, let's look, let me help you guys maybe look at ways to create an app that can be used for social media for all ages, not just millennial, but also elderly, seniors, and so forth, and families. It's quicker communication, more effective, and so forth. So I thought that was a good connection. Another one would be that another sessions that covered a lot of issues or things that I had already studied in my past. The quality effective decision making for leaders based on ethics, legal, and purpose or values. So there was a big discussion concerning how decisions are made and why they should be made, and how much we are influenced by our own backgrounds, personal backgrounds, be it Judeo-Christian or even values that we learned as children in our families. And we bring that into account as to why we have certain laws and rules that we need to support and follow for our society, and how carefully as leaders we need to be able to understand that what we say in our decisions are very affect everyone in the community that we live in. So I thought that was important. Just a note that tomorrow there will be a meeting at 10 o'clock at the Carolyn Owens building here across the street for the Interfaith organization concerning the initiatives of inclusiveness and looking at ways for homelessness, plus the idea of perhaps creating housing, fair housing development, and also career pathways for youth. One of our largest populations in the city of Chino is youth. We always have in the city a very, very positive, strong student government day. The question I have, well, for myself, I don't speak, we haven't discussed it as a council, but how do we sustain it? How do we sustain the interest of our youth to remain in the city? How do we sustain their interest to become part of the city? Well, one way would be to create an adoption of connection to business, where they have internships and also maybe even apprenticeships as future entrepreneurs, as future homeowners. You don't wait till after high school. You do it now. You start creating that now, because they are very much involved. Things have changed with the advent of social media and all that. The information and knowledge is really passed on. And I think the way I see it, I think those are avenues that we can have youth, seniors, all our families become sustainable as participatory in our government. And it's at no cost. It's the idea of just connecting with many nonprofits, Chamber of Commerce, building the infrastructure of membership, making that aware. And also at this, on the 28th, Buena Vista will have their first college career fair. I'm not leading it. I was asked to help them facilitate. So it's a beginning, and the staff is so excited they want to do it every quarterly for the youth. And there will be opportunities to look at different careers, white collar, blue collar, trades, the involvement also of learning how to do accounting, even learning about first mortgage, how do they devise their credit scores, what do they understand about credit. So it's going to be a variety of ways to give information for youth, and then move it on to the idea that it can be increased. There again, the sustainability to keep our youth participatory in our city in a very positive way, so that they become members, residents that want to stay. The families, we recently hosted a Chinese entrepreneurs from mainland China, and they were telling my daughter, you know, you're a burden to your father because you're not married. Well, you know, some of the youth that we have here, maybe they need to start looking at ways how they can be independent and look for ways that there is hope for them to be enmeshed, to be participatory in a very positive way, which really affects a lot of things: civic responsibility, then neighborhood watch, being able to someday maybe have a home that they can say it's theirs. So fair housing is important, and maybe even areas for workers threshold, where we can keep our workers that are trained as interns and apprenticeships, rather than having them move to Utah or New Mexico. Let's keep them here. You know, so that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, City Manager Matt Ballantyne, anything this evening?
Yes, just a couple things. Again, I wanted to thank Karen Comstock and Dr. Reich for their leadership last week. Additional, Dave McAbee, our Public Works Manager, I was bugging him all weekend on fixing things, particularly our streets. Public Works, PD, and the Fire District, I appreciate their coordinated efforts. Ariana Fajardo and Tamron Olden, they helped with a lot of the social media stuff and posting both the good and bad that was occurring during this last rain. I apologize to the council and the public for not doing a good job of communicating on behalf of the council. I need to certainly make sure that folks know that when I'm reaching out to them, it's not just staff reaching out to them, but the council certainly delegated that authority to me to certainly get back to the community members. But I want everybody to know that the council is regularly notified of all the ongoings and events that are occurring in the community, and that's certainly my responsibility. Finally, I wanted to recognize one of our employees who passed away last Tuesday. His name's Vince Ledesma. Vince was a public works inspector for the city of Chino, worked for the city of Chino, committed 20 years in our community and was faithful in serving our community. And so I'd like to recognize him and recognize his family that is certainly grieving. I know the services are occurring tomorrow, so our thoughts are with the Ledesma family.
Well, Mr. Ballantyne, I'm sure the council joins me in accepting your apologies, but I want the public to know that our city manager is literally available 24 hours a day. He answers calls at crazy times. I have rather a strange schedule myself, and I have texted him in the middle of the night, like at 2:30 in the morning, and he answers, which I've told him, don't answer. It's just, while I've got it on my mind, I've got to let you know whatever the subject was. He does do a good job of communication, but he's one human being, and there's 5 of us that I'm sure drive him crazy. And I want you to know that that man is available 24 hours a day, regardless of what the concerns are. But he's a human being, and he's not always going to be perfect. So I'm going to stick up for him, and I will accept your apologies, but I want you to know that your efforts are appreciated, very, very much appreciated, and you don't need to apologize. Okay, City Attorney, Mr. Galante, anything
Thank you,
this
Mayor.
evening?
No report this evening.
Okay, and Chief Comstock, anything?
No report, Mayor, thank you.
Except that maybe have people be aware of what's happening in their neighborhoods due to criminal activity?
Mayor, as you experienced this weekend yourself, one of the best deterrents to criminal activity is having your neighbors pay attention and know who belongs where at any given time. The best deterrent we have against particularly burglaries or even package thefts is the public themselves. You know, at any given time, the police department and our officers can't be everywhere, and we greatly depend upon the eyes and ears of our community to help us police the public. As Sir Robert, and one of the appealing principles is that the police are the people and the people are the police. And we rely greatly on the community to report any suspicious activity to us so that we can follow up upon it. In fact, one of the things we take pride in here at the Chino Police Department is not to be reactive to crime, but proactive to it. And that takes everybody in our community, whether it be people coming and going to and from work, or neighbors, or we even rely upon, believe it or not, our people providing services in our community to report suspicious activity when they see it. In fact, we're hoping to roll out our next launch of Chino Cares and even place some of that information on some of our garbage trucks and other things in order to encourage people not just to volunteer in their community, but to be active participants in reporting crime or suspicious activity. It's one of the best adages is if you see something, say something. Call us. It's our job. We don't mind coming out. We don't mind investigating it. In fact, we would rather investigate it and find out that it's not something suspicious, further being reactive to crime. So our first goal is to prevent crime from happening by our presence whenever possible, but then when it does happen, to investigate it and bring the offender to justice and prosecute it. But we depend on the public's help every day, Mayor, and because of their participation, Chino remains a relatively low crime community for everybody to work and play in. And Councilman Lucille, thank you for your comments about the deputy that was his life was tragically lost this weekend. We have one of our best drug recognition experts and a collision reconstruction expert completing that report. In fact, I read his report today. I've been in contact with Sheriff McMahon and just providing him updates about that investigation. And Morty had been in contact with some of the supervising DAs who are going to be handling his case moving forward. It's just a senseless and tragic loss, but we will continue to keep the O'Laughlin family in our prayers and support them during this difficult time. And that concludes my report, Mayor. I know you had some of that activity in your neighborhood this weekend. Our guys, because of some people walking through the neighborhood reporting it, our officers responded quickly and were able to apprehend them. It's difficult. Some of those offenders right now, they don't spend as much time as we would like them to spend in jail because of some of the state's new models with public safety and the changes in the laws, but that's not our model here at the Chino Police Department. We will continue to arrest those offenders and place them in jail, and if they come back out and commit more crimes, we will arrest them again. So. The last thing I'd like to say that to preserve community is we know of your concerns, and I do apologize. It's likely that we're going to get another rainstorm in the future that is going to create flooding, into certain parts of town. And what I can tell you is that as a police department, we are committed to providing, our first priority down there is the safety of people, keeping people out of water, keeping people safe until the event passes. Then, of course, everybody from streets and public works gets busy about the mitigation, going out there and assessing the damage, getting the roads, cleared out and opened, because we know how important the circulation component is to the preserve, particularly when it comes to Euclid Avenue or some of the roadways, in and out of those areas. So we're absolutely committed to your safety down there and placing the appropriate staff in certain areas that we consider volatile to help with that. We know how hard it is when we lose Euclid Avenue or Kimball or Bickmore, and our priority is to get those back open, as well as, it's difficult. I know Shannon asked, hey, can we close the roads and not let people from Eastville or other places come through there? Well, that's not feasible, because then it impacts Riverside County or Orange County. One of the things I'd like to compare that to is, I'm sure people, when we broke through on Grand Avenue into Diamond Bar, they really didn't appreciate when we started traveling over Grand Avenue to Diamond Bar and other places, or through Carbon Canyon or other places, in order to alleviate long and difficult commutes. So in the meantime, we're going to go through some growth pains down there, but when rains or other adverse events occur, you can depend on your staff. We have a very, very dedicated staff and team of people here. We all work well together at the city, and our first priority is people's safety, and then mitigating and getting these roads back open as soon as possible. So in the meantime, you're welcome to contact any of us, and we will respond to your request. During some of those processes, while we're pulling those permits and doing some of the work that the city manager spoke of, and our director of public works, I had a conversation today with Mr. Ligori, our director of community development services, about also conditioning those developers to help us with police services out there directly during road closures to help move traffic along, because there's going to be a lot of work coming to not just that area, but all of Chino, with the 3 bridges, with the development of with the expansion of the Central and 60 freeway interchange. There's going to be a lot of frustrating and difficult commuting over the next few years. But it's one of these things that's going to have to get worse before it gets better for us. But we're committed as a staff and as a department, as a city, to do our best to make it as, you know, as less frustrating as possible to our residents. But we've got a lot to go through before we can finally arrive to that point. But in the meantime, you know, keep us informed, and we'll keep doing our best.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
And again, as she cited, you are the PD's eyes, and I experienced that. Unfortunately, our neighborhood did this weekend. If it had not been for a couple of residents that walk every day, that happened to notice a vehicle that was out of place, and called and reported it, those 3 burglars would not have been caught. They would have gotten away with it if the 2 ladies that were walking had not noticed and not called. So you are the eyes and the ears. Take pictures. Use your cell phones. Take pictures if you see something that is suspicious, and please report it. It may be nothing, but then again, it may be something. These people stole a car and then came back to remove stuff out of the house and got caught. So it was only because of people's eyes and ears that the PD was able to respond and catch them, because they can't be everywhere. Fire chief, who's here for the fire department? Aha, anything this evening? Nothing, okay. Well, with that then, I would like to adjourn our meeting in memory of former Mayor Bill Alexander and our employee Vince Ledesma. And our next regular meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 5th, here in the council chambers at 7 o'clock, and closed session at 6 o'clock if necessary. With that, we are adjourned.